The views and opinions shared on this show are from personal perspective, life experience of the individuals who share them for entertainment purposes only. This platform, its brand, and participants are not liable for the application and/or results of any information shared on this channel. Viewers are advised to conduct their own research and make informed and prayerful decisions for their lives regarding the topics covered on this platform. Warning: this presentation is for adult audiences only. Good evening, everyone. I am Gigi Renee, and I would like to welcome you all this evening to the Noble Vibe. Tonight, we are here to have a very serious conversation. It's one that has me very nervous tonight, to be quite honest. It is one of great sensitivity. On Labor Day this year, a gentleman by the name of George Floyd was executed, lynched in the eye of the public, compounded with years of social injustice, racism, bias, and prejudice. The African American community, along with those that support our community, virtually have had enough. Took to the streets in protests, and for now 22 days, there has been civil unrest as there is a compounded frustration between the two sides, black and blue. Tonight, we're here to unpack the different levels of what is going on now in our society. I have some special guests here with me tonight, and they're going to assist me. I want you to feel free to join in the conversation. Please comment, and hopefully by the time we finish, we'll give you a space where you could call in if you so desire. Now, before we begin this discussion, I want to deal with the most emergent issues, because so many of us have been protesting either online or either face-to-face on the streets. I want us to be fully aware of what our personal rights are and the legalities of where we are. So without further ado, what I'd like to do at this time is introduce you to Attorney Vivian Williams. Vivian, how are you tonight?
I'm doing well, and yourself?
Great. I'm so happy and excited that you've joined us here tonight. I just want to give you space right now to just share your heart with the Noble Vibe audiences and just tell us the preliminaries of basically what we need to know. What is the most emergent information that we need to know?
Okay, so I had the blessed opportunity of having a little bit of bases to start this off. It's about a couple questions that I found extremely important to answer. One of the big questions is, what happens when it comes to public protests? What are your laws? What are your personal rights? What do you need to be aware of? That question is a broad answer. I hate to say that, unfortunately, in the law, the word "it depends" is probably the most common phrase you'll hear from any lawyer in any form, any shape. For those who are questioning, I am a public defender, which means I do criminal law. I've been doing criminal law for approximately going about on 4 years now. And so I kind of see this every single day and have to be a part of it every single day. One of the sites that I would suggest visiting, even though I'm going to go over a few highlighted points tonight, is aclu.org. The reason why is because I believe that they have one of the best forums describing know your rights for protesting, and it breaks it down into different segments for you that makes it easier for you to understand and read and know. But the basics that I would say right now is that in knowing your rights, know that public areas are where you can protest. They are open, it's a generalized place. But the restrictions are most times that you cannot restrict public access. So I know that there are a lot of people in the streets and stuff right now. Technically, that would be a public access restriction. There are probably too many people to police or to end that practice. I would suggest, though, that especially if you are in a smaller group or by yourself, staying on public sidewalks and things of that nature would be in better place to protest when you won't be blocking the access to the public. Another thing I like to say is that there are restrictions that can be placed on large assemblies. I know a lot of people think, hey, that can't happen. Protest is our right. It is true. You do have a First Amendment right to say things. You do have a First Amendment right to protest. However, you have to be relegated. And sometimes that comes through the police officers saying certain things like stay away from this or stay away from that. As long as it does not affect your civil liberties, then they have the opportunity to ask you for those certain restrictions. I will say that they cannot place certain restrictions, though, unless it is private property and those restrictions are placed by their owner. So police officers cannot place restrictions on private property. The owner of that property is the person who places those restrictions, and you must follow those. As far as the other portions are concerned, photos, videos, yes, you are allowed to take photos of the police. You are allowed to take photos of the areas where you are. You are allowed to take videos. You are allowed to ask for their names, their badge numbers. These are things that you are allowed to do. These are not violations of any rights. You are allowed to make sure that you know the people around you, any of those kinds of things. You can ask that as long as you are in a public space. Now, if for some odd reason you end up walking onto private land by accident and someone asks you to leave, just leave. You're on private land. But you can take videos and photographs and things of private land as well, as long as you are not on the space of that private land. So those are kind of the major highlights I would suggest during protesting. Be careful. There's a lot happening out there. Pay attention. Do understand that counter-protesters are a part of how protesting works. They have just as much right to say what they dislike as you do, so don't be offended by those who come against you. To answer the next question, what happens when you're arrested or detained by police? When you are arrested or detained by police, I know a lot of people may not like this particular phrase, but please be cooperative. I know that sounds, like, well, they did, and I'm not taking any responsibility from either party in this particular case. But what I mean by is if they ask you to put your hands up, do so. If they ask you to do, at this point, unfortunately, you are being detained or you are being arrested. In that moment, please understand that there is nothing you can do about it. The correction will come after the arrest is made. The correction will come after the detention is made. But in that moment, you need to focus on being as cooperative as you can to save your own self and to save your own life during that time. I think that a lot of times people being a little aggressive, officers being a lot aggressive, can have a negative impact. But if you try as best you can to remain calm, I know it doesn't always work out. It makes for a better argument, though, when an attorney, has to argue it for you later. And then what happens if you get arrested and you have to use a public defender? I am a public defender, and I am a big advocate for public defenders. I think that a lot of times people are underwhelmed, or the media and the press have made public defenders seem like bumbling idiots. We are not. We are actually pretty good at our jobs, and sometimes tend to be better than a lot of private attorneys. Sorry, guys. But I would say if that is the case, one of the things that I often stress to my clients is please, 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 please remember the events that happened. A lot of times clients come to me and the biggest problem that I have is that they don't even remember what happened. While I recognize that things happen extremely swiftly and quickly, and you don't quite know what's happening or going on, you remembering events, remembering people in the area. If there was a witness that could help you, remember that person's name, remember what they looked like. If there's a place that had cameras, give that kind of information to your attorney, whether they be public defender or private. These are all things that could help us build a case later. Remember the officer's name. If you want to get the officer's badge number, you can get that too. Remember the sequence of events as they happened. And please, please, please do not forget that the way we hear this is how we have to present it. So tell it as a story. Start from the beginning. If this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and make each step. And don't forget, as I said, to give us as many clues as you can. So that is what I would suggest. I would also suggest that if you do happen to have a public defender, please don't fight with them. They're just trying to help you. It may seem like it's not, because, you know, we can come a lot of times with the state said, or this is what, unfortunately, that's how you have to do it, to move around and maneuver within the system as best as you can. But like I said, be as cooperative as you can with your attorney, whether they be public defender or private. I like to throw out that the only difference too between public defenders and private attorneys is that one works for the government, that would be the public defender, and one works within its own private entity. Most often get paid about the same thing, and most often do about the same workload, although I think public defenders are slightly higher in workload. This question is, and I had to reach out to one of my mentors for this question because it is a bit touchy, and it also is a bit hard to explain to laypersons. What is habeas corpus? So he helped me kind of bring it down to kind of a layperson's version. It is basically the requirement, and I'm going to read it the way he said it, guys. So if you see me off to the side, it's basically the requirement to see a judge after arrest and your right to counsel. Now, to explain that, I know a lot of people have been seeing from like Supreme Courts of each state that has been suspended. And that got kind of scary for a lot of people. I will say that working within the system, it is technically suspended. So what does that mean? It means that clients are still seeing judges. Clients are still getting their rights to counsel. It is slightly happening slower, but it is still happening. It is slightly happening where it's not as much in-person contact. So as of today, I did 3 conferences via video like this. I will be doing them all day Friday. So that's kind of how it's happening. You are getting the opportunity to still have your right to a judge. As a matter of fact, at least with my particular county that I'm working in at the moment, we're trying to do it even faster for those who are incarcerated, because not only are the protests having an effect, but the virus, COVID virus, has had an effect on the court systems. And we know that other things are having to be suspended and other things are having to be put on the back burner. So we are trying actually to get people in front of judges quicker. I know that one of my clients has been in front of a judge at least 3 times. That is unheard of within 1 month. And that's because we're trying to do as best we can about making sure that people's rights are hindered as little as we can during this time of social unrest and the time of COVID. So it's technically suspended, you guys, for the purposes of us saying, hey, if we don't get around to it, please don't hate us. But it's more so being used, and it is being done. And public defenders, criminal defense attorneys are working as hard as they can. I'm constantly checking clerk sites to make sure that I check up on my inmates, check up on those people who are being incarcerated, find out how long they've been there and how quickly we can work to get them some form of bond, bail, or to get them out. So it is only technically suspended. I will say that. The overall statement that I would like to kind of end with, because I think I've pretty much hit my highlight points, unless there is something else that our lovely hostess would like me to go to tonight. Yes, you have a right to protest. You have a right to free speech. You have a right to be in these public places. You have a right to say how you feel. You have a right to have this opinion. but you also have to balance it with common sense. I often tell my clients, common sense is not common. Because while I recognize that we are all in heightened situations, we are all in heightened positions, we all feel a disconnect between the police right now. I will tell you that I am a public defender. I am around police officers daily. I probably see about 20 police officers a day. They're in my immediate space on a consistent basis. I am still slightly afraid when I get pulled over. But that is in those moments where I try to pull from my calmness. Those are those moments where I try to pull from my common sense. And I try to tell myself, calm down. I recognize that in this moment, I may not be excited or happy or not fearful, but the longer I remain calm, the more at ease I believe that I can put this other person. And so I would say, do as much as you can in that respect to remain calm and cooperative and keep a leveled head. I recognize that officers cannot sometimes. That has been part of the struggle. And they have more means to do you more harm. Right. However, as I stated before, it is so much easier for an attorney like me to make a statement that says, well, my client did such and so if you are calm. So I often suggest that you remain as calm as you can.
Right.
The other takeaway that I would like to say is that, yes, the police do work for the people. The police are to protect. The police are to serve. The police are to be there for us. The police are to assist. They are not to tear us down. They are not to harm us. They are not to abuse us or to abuse that power. Unfortunately, there is a disconnect between that right now and the citizens. Don't accept that. Don't accept that.
Right.
And it is okay that you don't accept that.
Right.
Fighting for this injustice, fighting for this gap to be narrowed can be done in many ways. Some people are doing it through these forums, giving out information, assisting monetarily, helping with food, water, transportation, all of those kinds of things. These are ways that you can become involved and help and assist. My takeaway from that is, don't be a bystander. If you're really upset about something, you can change it. You are the group that can change it. There are many people, so you are the group that can change it. And do the best you can to, like I said, remain calm. And I'm a big fan of prayer, so keep God first.
Right. Thank you so much, Attorney Williams. What I want to do at this time, before I bring my next commentators up, is I want to roll some videos to kind of start the conversation so you guys can see, number one, what we are fighting against. We know that, as the word says, we fight not against flesh and blood. And then for those of you who are watching, who are wondering why we're so angry, I want to show you some B-roll of Kimberly Jones really summing up how I feel. We'll be right back.
Somebody's trying to shame us. The legislators. The press.
Oh my God.
Everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed. Oh my fucking God. Well, you know what? This isn't stained. It's still got a shine on it. Stop treating us like animals and thugs. Start treating us with some respect. It's disgusting. Trying to make us embarrassed of our profession. Don't resist, bro. I'm not. And that's all I have to say.
I want every white person in this room who would be happy to be treated as this society in general treats our citizens, our black citizens. If you, as a white person, would be happy to receive the same treatment that our black citizens do in this society, please stand. You didn't understand the directions. If you white folks want to be treated the way blacks are in this society, stand. Nobody's standing here. That says very plainly that you know what's happening. You know you don't want it for you. I want to know why you're so willing to accept it or to allow it to happen for others.
That we must never forget that economics was the reason that black people were brought to this country. We came to do the agricultural work in the South and the textile work in the North. Do you understand that? That's what we came to do. We came to do the agricultural work in the South and the textile work in the North. Now, if I right now decided that I wanted to play Monopoly with you, and for 400 rounds of playing Monopoly, I didn't allow you to have any money, I didn't allow you to have anything on the board, I didn't allow for you to have anything. And then we played another 50 rounds of Monopoly, and everything that you gained and you earned while you were playing that round of Monopoly was taken from you. That was Tulsa, that was Rosewood. Those are places where we built black economic wealth, where we were self-sufficient, where we owned our stores, where we owned our property, and they burned them to the ground. So that's 450 years. So for 400 rounds of Monopoly, you don't get to play at all. Not only do you not get to play, you have to play on the behalf of the person that you're playing against. You have to play and make money and earn wealth for them, and then you have to turn it over to them. So then for 50 years, you finally get a little bit and you're allowed to play. And every time that they don't like the way that you're playing, or that you're catching up, or that you're doing something to be self-sufficient, they burn your game. They burn your cards. They burn your Monopoly money. And then finally at the release and the onset of that, they allow you to play and they say, okay, now you catch up. Now at this point, the only way you're going to catch up in the game is if the person shares the wealth, correct? But what if every time you share the wealth, then there's psychological warfare against you to say, oh, you're an equal opportunity hire. So if I played 400 rounds of Monopoly with you and I had to play and give you every dime that I made, and then for 50 years, every time that I played, if you didn't like what I did, you got to burn it like they did in Tulsa and like they did in Rosewood, how can you win? How can you win? Trevor Noah said it so beautifully last night. There's a social contract that we all have, that if you steal or if I steal, then the person who is the authority comes in and they fix the situation. But the person who fixes the situation is killing us. So the social contract is broken. And if the social contract is broken, what the fuck do I give a shit about burning the Football Hall of Fame, about burning the Target? You broke the contract when you killed us in the streets and didn't give up. You broke the contract when for 400 years we played your game and built your wealth. You broke the contract when we built our wealth again on our own, by our bootstraps in Tulsa, and you dropped bombs on us. When we built it in Rosewood and you came in and you slaughtered us. You broke the contract, so fuck your Target. Your Hall of Fame. As far as I'm concerned, they could burn this to the ground. And it still wouldn't be enough. And they are lucky that what black people are looking for is equality and not revenge.
That was powerful and a mouthful. Okay. Join with me here tonight. I have Mr. Gabriel Rozier. He is a community advocate, CEO, and founder of Black Men Walking, an organization designed to promote social, mental, and emotional well-being for males in the Black community. I also have with me Alfred and Lee Smith. They are individuals. They are both successful business owners who own a travel agency and a full-service music production company. But together, they are both spiritual leaders, marriage, and family counselors. So good evening to you all tonight. How are you?
Good evening.
Good evening. Good under the circumstances.
Under the circumstances, we are so happy. I am also here with Mr. Alvin Hodge. He's the owner of the Never Forget clothing line, social and business brand that advocates for education, cultural pride, and organization progression of the Black community here in America. Under the circumstances, that was powerful. I wanted to intentionally show that tonight. What are y'all thoughts? I know we just sitting here looking at one another because it's like, where do you begin on such a loaded topic? We have watched, we watched a man get lynched in the street. I can't get over that.
Yeah, I will say my emotions have been all over the place probably for the last few weeks. I have been up, I have been down, I think I've cried, I have screamed, I have prayed, I've asked God why. And really I'm in the place now of wanting to think about what do we do to make change and how do we mobilize to get there. Because what I'm learning is that, these kinds of conversations are, number one, they're important and they're the foundation of being able to begin. But after we have the conversation, I'm ready to identify what is it that we do and how do we go. I'll say the one thing that I think that is getting lost is that I've heard some people say that the Black community has made George Floyd a martyr and that he is being paraded around and things like that. And the bottom line is that he was made a martyr when that officer stepped on his neck and killed him. He didn't volunteer himself for that. He didn't put himself up. He was murdered. And no one is, throwing him out there like that. His death was honestly just the straw that broke the camel's back.
I agree. I totally agree with you. What I want to do at this time, because we're so pressed for time tonight, I want to add Minister Only Love to this conversation at this time. Minister Only Love, author of Prophetic Whirlwind, who has platforms all over YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. So you guys definitely check her out. Can you give us some spiritual perspective on what in the world is going on and how did we get here?
Yes, thank you so much for having me, and thank you to the panelists. Those videos really moved me. My name is Minister Only Love Chica Alston, and in addition to running a teaching ministry called Prophetic Whirlwind, uncovering the Black book, I went on a 6-year journey asking the question, why are we here spiritually? What does the Bible have to say about the taking of Black lives? I started my book around the time of Eric Garner, who said, I can't breathe. And for 13 years, I've been a faith-based organizer and advocate in New York and DC and Baltimore, helping to change laws. Like the last campaign I worked on resulted in Rikers Island Prison being voted to be closed. And Rikers Island Prison in New York was purchased from a plantation owner. There is a deep connection between slavery and prison. When you know history, you stop being surprised and you just get angry. The first police patrols were to capture runaway slaves. When you look spiritually, we know if the foundation of the house is wrong, the whole house will be wrong. And so in my work as a minister and also going to visit Hebrew tribes of Africa and researching who we were in scripture, Deuteronomy 28 talks about a people who would be taken into slavery in ships. And so where we are spiritually is after 400 years of captivity. This August will be exactly 400 years since the first enslaved people were brought from Angola. After these 400 years, we're angry and we're tired. In Genesis 15:13 says, know for certain that for 400 years your descendants will be strangers in a country not their own, and they will be enslaved and mistreated there. Most of us were taught that was the slavery in Egypt, but that was only 200 and something years, and they stayed in total from Joseph to Exodus 400 and something, 35 years. So who is that talking about? But mostly we as a people are depressed, and we really should be seeking justice, but holistic justice. That includes reparations, that includes mental health, that includes physical health. In Hebraic thought, the culture of the Bible, your heart is not here. Your heart is in your mind. And the Bible says oppression makes a good man mad. And so between January and today, 288 Black women have been killed by intimate partner violence. Let's not forget Breonna Taylor, who was asleep in her house. She was an EMT during the COVID pandemic for 2 hospitals and was killed. Then when her boyfriend tried to defend her, he was a witness. He was being accused in his own partner's death. We also have Toyin Salu, a Nigerian American sister that went to every last march for George Floyd and was raped and killed by another Black man. So we know Black on Black crime does not excuse what happens to us. But if we're talking about spiritually where we're at, we need to realize justice is mentioned 28 times in scripture. And we have been given a false slave religion that says you are the cursed of Ham, you are the cursed of Canaan, when all Black people were not cursed and all Black people are not Ham. Many of us, I've been to Africa, I've sat at the feet of the Jewish elders in West Africa that are saying in Ghana, in Nigeria, they're protesting for George Floyd. They are saying you are a part of us. Black people in America, we are the chosen Hebrews of scripture. Why is this important? Because it shows us spiritually. If you read Deuteronomy 28, you read every last condition we've gone through. Even slavery and ships, children being taken from parents, men, their wives being raped in front of them. Who has gone through this? And so righteousness and justice are the foundation of God's throne. That's what Psalm 89:14 says. So we cannot separate our quest from justice from our spirituality, because we are the people that are anointed with our music, with our preaching, even with this protest has gone all over the world. Over 2,000 people got arrested in Hong Kong protesting for George Floyd. We are anointed to bring justice to the world and to teach humanity how to return to the Creator. But our identity has been stolen. And during the captivity is what we're in, because guess what? The 13th Amendment does not abolish slavery. It says slavery and involuntary servitude is abolished unless you are convicted of a crime. And our sister, who's a lawyer, can verify that. Look, Google the 13th Amendment. So captivity is a space where you're not fully a slave, but you're not fully free. And we are not meant to see the life go out of a man.
No.
On camera.
No.
It's not normal. It's not a normal reality. And so we need to do what Malcolm X said in his last year, and what about 40 leaders of African countries want to do. We need to take our plight international. About 20 to 40 African presidents are going to the United Nations and saying we need to have a debate over racism. But as a spiritual leader who has searched out who we are, we need to know that we are the Israelites of Scripture. We turn from our God, and this injustice has come upon us, but it's also come upon us because we are the physical representation of the Creator of the universe on earth. And we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but wickedness in high places. Now, I do lobbying on behalf of the poor around mass incarceration, around housing. So high places is not something spooky. High places is your state capital. High places is the White House. High places is the UN. High places is the IMF. International Monetary Fund that raped Africa. You come from the richest continent in the world, and most things that were invented in this country were invented by you, but yet you are the poorest. But there is a redemption process. Before we go out and protest, we must dedicate it to the Most High, because in scripture it says before they went out to war, the Levites blessed them. We also have to examine what is a Black leader. And I love what Archbishop E. Bernard Jordan says: there are leading Blacks and Black leaders. Leading Blacks are the Black people that are assigned to you in times like this to calm you down, to get you focused on just voting for a particular candidate, but we're going to still be killed. But a Black leader is someone anointed and appointed by God to lead our people through integrity, through being educated, through knowing who we are spiritually. And a person of integrity is not going to sell you out just for a seat at the white man's table. See, we have in our minds that we are the cursed and forgotten by God, but we are the central piece. None of humanity will be free until we are free.
Wait. Listen. I hope y'all just heard what she said. Can you please say that again for the people in the back?
Reference. All of creation is groaning and waiting for the revealing of who. So we know that the whole creation has been groaning as in pains of childbirth right up till this present time. Romans 8:22, but I'm going to read another chapter. Romans 8:19 before that says, for the earnest expectation, creation waits for the revealing of the sons of God, or the whole creation waits breathlessly with anticipation for the revelation of who God's sons and daughters really are. We are out of breath, waiting for the revealing of who the sons and daughters of God really are. That's from Romans 8:19. So that means humanity doesn't know. But we have to look at the life of Jesus, Yeshua of Nazareth, because everything we're going through in this captivity, he went through. He was born to a young teenage mother. His parents were so poor, they couldn't afford a lamb to sacrifice him. They had to sacrifice pigeons. But he comes from the royal line of Judah, because we are priests and royals who have been brought to a low estate. He was wrongly tried and executed by the Roman Empire, but he rose again. He was whipped 40 times minus one. Read slave narratives. They will whip us 40 times minus one. We are literally, he has lived through this experience. He hung on a tree. That's what it's called in the Hebrew. He was lynched. And so we must fight for justice, but we must fight for it with the knowledge of who we are and whose we are, so that we're not going around the same circles over and over again. Because this new generation, we're not going to stand for it.
No.
And the thing is, it's been so many people in the past week who have been lynched from South Africa here. And then people that they say, like the sister who wrote the blockbuster TV show, This Is Us, they said she hung herself. I really don't know, because there's so many lynchings.
Yeah.
So we must turn to leaders that can help us be mentally strong in this time. The Israelites had to spend 40 years in the wilderness, not because the trip took 40 years from Egypt to Israel on a buses. That's a day trip. But because they had to be freed of the slave mentality. And we are still struggling, where even some of our people are with the slave mentality that we should not stand up. At this time, spiritually, if you are sitting in a church with a white leader who cannot advocate for your life, and you're giving that money to him and not to rebuild Black Wall Street, spiritually, something is wrong with your heart. Because biblically, the heart is here. If you get nervous about the talk of a Black Jesus, when even they have, in my book, a Russian university, this was published in the top newspaper in Israel, they excavated 2,000-year-old skulls from Judea, and they reconstructed the face and found that both had Black African features. Everyone knows but you. And so we must make sure that we're not spiritually spending time in places that just give us a high, a sugar high, to endure the oppression for 7 more days. Know that we as Black people are the chosen people of Scripture. Justice is going to come, but
Come on.
we're being invited to the divine call of co-creating justice with the Most High God. And this is not going to be our final reality. When
Amen.
would you ever think multiple African presidents would stand up, because you were told no one wanted you there? But
Come
when
on.
I go to the villages of the West African elders, like the Sefwi Jews of Ghana, which you can read about in my book or just Google, the elder cried and he said, we need African Americans to come. And the Torah is a Black man's book. The scripture is a Black man's book. We were not just orphans given away. And if we could just step into our anointing and use wisdom, what the sister who's a lawyer said was true. But we also have to take care of our mental health. We
Mhm.
have to protest with wisdom. We have to tie our protests to legislation, to reparations, to going to the UN. And we have to not destroy our own communities.
Hmm.
You love what you see in the mirror. Now, before we talk about reconciling with whites, we have to be real. You cannot reconcile what was never together. But we are called by scripture to be ministers of reconciliation. So the first reconciliation has to happen between Black people and their Black God. The second reconciliation has to be between the Black man and the Black woman. The third reconciliation has to be between young and old. The fourth reconciliation has to be between Africans and the diaspora, between the light and the dark, between rich Blacks and poor Blacks. Once we and then the last reconciliation has to be between you and the Black face that looks at you in the mirror and realizing you were made in the image of God.
Yeah.
And once we do that, then we can enter relationship with other people groups, not based on exploitation, but based on mutual humanity. And thank you so much for allowing me to be on this important discussion.
Listen, thank you so much for coming. We're going to let you go because we know you're busy right now, but I will get with you. Thank you. You guys go to Prophetic Whirlwind, purchase her book. I'm telling you, it's an investment. I'm going through it now, and I'm going to probably have to call and get a class with her later.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Have a great night.
Blessings, everyone.
Whew, listen, I'm going to have to replay this podcast back myself. Listen, right now, what I'm going to do is I want to bring up Mr. Gabriel Rozier. He works and on the front lines every day with Black Men Walking. Please share your heart. What is it that you see?
But first of all, I don't know the video that you passed. I know when you want us to kind of chime in and give our take on it, I really didn't have too many words to say at that very moment. I just kind of had to let it sink in and process. But the sister who you got through talking, man, she knocked me out with the leading Blacks, the difference between the leading Blacks and the Black leaders. So I'm gonna have to play this back too, because I want to make sure I get those nuggets she was dropping. But I do want to say, as far as my personal feelings when I saw the video, something I fought to. For a few days, I waited to watch it. I didn't want to watch it all. I know last time me and you had dialogue. I think that was that after the incident in Georgia, or had that already taken place with the young brother who was killed in the middle of the street?
Yeah, just taking place with
Okay. And it seems like this was not too long after. But with this particular situation, it took me to a place where at the age of 4, and I actually spoke about this on social media just a few days ago, my dad celebrated his 64th birthday. And in light of everything going on with Floyd, I remember when I was 4 years old and my dad was pulled out of a car. I was in the back seat with my brother. My mom was up front. It was pitch dark outside. We were actually coming from another minister's house. Both my parents are pastors, and we were coming from another minister's house. And I remember, my dad being pinned down to the ground in the middle of a dark road. We were basically like in the woods. This is before they, started developing the area a little bit and putting stores and things like that nature. It wasn't street lights and all that stuff out there. And I remember a host of police officers, white police officers, surrounding my dad. I remember a helicopter being over him. Now, I was 4 years old. I'm 35 now. I've never forgotten this night. I remember my mom yelling from the passenger seat for my dad to be quiet, to stop arguing with the police, to stop resisting, because they were literally physically wrestling my dad down to the ground and pinning him down. And I remember him just not going down with the fight. Here it is, a man never had a background, never had been to jail, never committed a crime. And here he is, he's been pulled out of his vehicle in front of his family, being pinned down. And long story short, there had been a robbery to a bakery in the area. My dad did not meet the description of the robber. The car did not meet the description of the car that the robber was driving. And as they tussled and wrestled with my dad, what the saving grace that came in was one of the officers finally recognized him and realized he was the pastor of a small family church a little bit further down the road. Now here it is. I'm 4 years old. I'm crying in the back seat, siblings crying, and I just remember how he was being physically handled in front of his family. And if you're any child who had the luxury of being raised by a father, you know what high esteem you hold your father in. You know what type of pedestal you put your father on. There's Superman to you. There's nothing they can do wrong. There's nothing they can't fix, nothing they can't beat. And it just makes me think about just our history period, even slavery time, where masters went out their way to break down the man in front of his family.
Come on.
And so here it is, we're still experiencing that here, 2020, where they're still breaking our black men down in the middle of the street. And they're doing it on Front Street so everybody can see it.
Yep.
This is not new practice.
Nope.
This has been the practice since we've come into this country. So here it is, I'm a 35-year-old man. Anybody who personally knows me, even with all the work I do in the community, I'll tell you this, I have never been to the jail in Jacksonville, Florida, not even for a tour. I get such an anxiety about a jail and about law enforcement as much as I do in the community. I don't, and I can honestly say this on this podcast tonight, I don't like police. I don't like them, and I'm not okay with that. I know that that's a problem. I know that that's something that needs to be worked on and wants to be fixed, but I didn't ask for the things that I've seen. I didn't ask for those experiences. I didn't ask for my dad to be handled that night the way he was handled. I have been handled certain ways throughout my lifetime in my young adult life, and I have found myself being in situations where I felt harassed. I've been pulled over and police. I may have been sitting there a second. Police will come circle the car, and then the classic thing, I've heard this so many times, oh, we heard it was a disturbance in the neighborhood. Yeah, officer, I just pulled up. I hadn't even got out the car. What disturbance did I give the neighborhood? And just different things as a black man that I've experienced. So now here it is. I've been raised by a black man. I'm obviously a black man. I'm raising 3 young black men at this point. And I'm not going to lie, it is frustrating. My oldest boy is 15 years old. He's learning how to drive. These are things that cross my mind. Is he going to get pulled over? Is he going to be harassed? Is he going to know what to do, what to say? What type of eggshells is he going to be walking on? Friendly pulls him over. So it's high time. It's frustrating. You through whatever we go through, you always want to remain positive and vigilant. You want to have strategy. That's the best thing that I can suggest in reacting. I know that we're angry people at this point, but we have to have strategy with however we mobilize. I don't criticize anything that anybody does as far as how they react. I don't necessarily agree with everything that people are doing at this time, whether it's how they choose to riot or protest or I'm sorry, I don't have an opinion on that. I don't pass judgment on that. I just know me personally, I'm in a place, Black Men Walking is in a place where we are trying to figure out how we're going to go about our next moves and steps and just make sure that our moves are God moves and that we're not just reacting and just doing stuff just to say that we were doing something in this time. But it's something that we can't get around as far as the emotions. I have people on my team right now that we've tried to go to the drawing board to figure out what we can do in this time. And I've had people who are just honest with me and say, Gabe, I just can't talk right now.
Hmm.
You know, I have to wait to kind of process a little bit more, kind of get around my feelings a little bit more. And then maybe at that point, we can mobilize and get some things done. So
Yeah.
I think we've all been here before. I watched Salem the other night, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us have seen Salem. And I got excited when I saw Salem the first, second, and third time because it was history lesson on MLK and the movement. But it brought a whole nother perspective to me the other night when they were crossing the bridge and they were beat down, and you had the state patrol riding on horses and beating these people down, and children, women and children down with bats and different things of that nature. And I remember when I saw the movie, how it seemed like it got the attention of the world because people wanted to disregard, ignore, or act like it wasn't that bad. But because it was done on such a big stage, it got the attention of the country. And so you had different people of different faiths, different people of different nationalities come out and unite to lock arms for this particular cause. And so this situation with Floyd, it kind of reminded me of that, where now this thing was done in front of the world. Now you have the attention of different faiths. You have the attention of people of different nationalities. And there are some sincere people who really are trying to be in tune in this time. You have a lot of people who are taking advantage of the situation, but you have people who actually are arrested by what they saw in the Floyd video. I had a white Caucasian brother hit me up just last week. When I started Black Men Walking 3 years ago, not that I needed his opinion or his approval on what I was doing, because he's not a black man, he doesn't know what that's like. But we had such a strong friendship, I wanted to at least tell him what I was doing and why I was doing. And I explained to him the process and what all went into starting my nonprofit. And he said to me, well, Gabe, it's just refreshing that we had a conversation about this. I love what you're doing. I'm glad you want to empower your community and the brothers from your community. He said, I wasn't sure exactly what you were doing. He said, I'm glad it's positive, though. He said, I just want to make sure that you understand. And he said, this is not my personal opinion. But he said, what I've learned is the world a lot of times does not care about what you all go through as black people. And this is what he told me. Just in a can. He said, just to be honest with you. He said, and sometimes, he said, I feel as though you all want people to hear. And he said, Gabe, I'm sorry, but he said it's a sad situation, but the world really does not care what black people go through. Fast forward.
They don't.
After the Floyd videos and everything surfaced, that same Caucasian brother
Gabe, you are breaking up.
just apologizing. Oh, am I still breaking up now?
Well, no, you clear.
Am I still breaking up now?
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. But he was apologizing for whatever place or part that he may have played, even with his level of thinking. And what he wanted to do was know what he could do to help out the movement. And in all honesty, at that point, I didn't even know what answer to give him, because I knew the relationship and rapport that me and him had built.
Okay,
but I didn't know how to answer his question.
Can we just go there for a second? And I pulled everybody up because I want to have this. I want to just take a minute to have this conversation. I have received so many inboxes from white, and I'm just gonna be blunt, from white people that know me, and it is annoying to me how you can show me your support in secret, but you can't stand up and show me your support in public. I have an issue with every white person associated with me that claims to love me that don't have nothing on their page, nothing on their social media in support of Black Lives Matter, especially when you're on your social media. I saw a post about our 20th high school reunion. That was just the earlier part of this month. And when I looked at the post said something to the effect of, because we're so artistic, we didn't have those issues. And I said to myself, you never asked me what my experience was. Because my experience was full of racism. It was full of bigotry. During my sophomore year at this particular school, we got the most racist chain letters stuffed in our lockers. I was failed in a math class that I needed to take because the math teacher was prejudiced. This is my issue. You don't ask me my experience, and then you assume everything was okay because we haven't complained about it. As a people, we haven't complained about it, and you don't hear us until we start tearing up stuff. Am I wrong? Am I thinking?
I can agree with that.
No, but we're angry. We're angry, and I think what Minister Only Love said. Lee, help me with this. When she talked about being
not wrong in that, we have.
Okay, something is wrong with your stream, Alvin. Lee, go ahead, Alvin. Let me see what you were saying. Alvin, can you hear me? Okay.
We have to first understand the history. Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Can you hear me, Geneva?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so what I was saying is we have to first understand what she was stating about the reality of the fact that the original police was. So we have the history at its root. So they were in turn going to catch slaves. Master, same thing.
Okay, Alvin, your feed is breaking up. I'm gonna bring you down for the moment so you can kind of give that some attention. Lee, jump in. Alfred, help us with this. Where are we with this?
I think we're in multiple places. First, I think that as a people, we have been speaking. We have been talking about it. This isn't anything that's new. This isn't anything that's sudden. We have spoken. For crying out loud, Colin Kaepernick kneeled.
Come on.
He kneeled.
Come on.
And, and it was dismissed. And, I like I said earlier, that Mr. Floyd's death was the straw that broke the camel's back. Yeah. And it shouldn't have taken that for people to realize that there's a problem. There's been a problem. But this systemic racism thing goes beyond police brutality. You see it in every area of influence. You see it in education. You see it in healthcare. You see it in corporate. You see it in entertainment. Everywhere where you see anything going on, you see systemic racism. And I think that at this moment in time, people have grown tired. I have grown tired, and I said, I think that the question that I would say most of Caucasian people should be asking is what does it mean to be Black in today's world? Because a lot of them don't think about that. They don't think, like, when I'm planning a trip for me and my husband or my family to go to, the first thing that I'm thinking about is it safe for us as Black people to go? Will we be subject to racism? Just on taking a simple trip. Or when we bought the luxury car that we bought, while I'm sitting down there signing the papers, I'm thinking in my mind, what is the likelihood that my husband is going to be pulled over? Because someone will look at him and will assume that he stole the car.
Come on.
Not recognizing or realizing that he owns the car.
Right.
So all of this stuff is happening. And of course, we are praying people. We are people who love God. We honor God, and we stand on the word and we stand on the promises of God. But we aren't praying only. When we pray, we are getting off of our knees and saying, now what do we do? God, lead us in the charge. God, guide us, show us, and direct us. And, it's all about mobilization. So I'm saying, ultimately, to go back to it, is we've been talking. People are just now listening.
No, not at all. When she said that we as the people are depressed, I think she's right. I think we have post-traumatic stress syndrome because I don't think white people understand what it feels like to be in fear of your life literally every time you walk out the door. And now they hanging people, now they lynching people. So we're almost to the point where we got to go out in groups. We can't even go out. You can't do a Walmart run 3 o'clock in the morning. You can't do that. It is frustrating that to me, this day and time, we actually have to keep repeating silence gives consent. You don't say nothing. It's just like when you confess Christ. Doesn't the word tell us that you have to confess before you have to confess Christ in public?
Yeah.
You can't confess Christ. And this is the struggle I have too. Because how are you claiming to have God in your life when you don't stand for what's right? Now let's go back to that brother that was just killed in Atlanta. Let's go to him. Because if these were people to dismiss his death because he ran and struggled with the police. But I want you to keep in mind, the world had just witnessed them publicly execute George Floyd. I would have ran too.
Often with my clients, actually, come to think of it, now that you mention that, and unfortunately, that's one of the things that they are most afraid of is something like that occurring when they aren't doing anything, which is why, as I pointed out before, and I stress, you're already in a difficult situation. There is not much, I hate to say it like that you will do in that moment that will change the circumstances from where you are. And as Mr. Gay pointed out before about his father, those are stories that I hear consistently. Those are things that I see quite a bit with what I do. And there is that struggle trying to even explain this sometimes to the state attorneys or the other attorneys in the room. Black attorneys, only 5% of attorneys in the entire United States.
Whoa. Wow. Wait. You said Black attorneys only make up 5% of the attorneys in the United States?
Wow.
And if you think about that on the scale of the fact that there are 90,000 plus attorneys in the state of Florida, to see just how drastic that number is. And when you break that number down to even Black women, it gets even smaller. And so the unfortunate thing is I sit in a lot of rooms where, is your name Miss? As I sit in a lot of rooms, I have to explain that to the other attorneys. But wait a minute, he had an apprehension here, a valid apprehension. He has seen or been exposed to something negative with police before that could cause a level of fear, that can cause a level of distrust, mistrust, that can cause, this dialogue that should be happening that doesn't happen, this disconnect. And I often have to tell a lot of my clients, I hate to say it, I tell my Black clients all the time, like, first of all, say less, because it's going to help me later. And also, unfortunately, recognize that the position that you're in, the best way that I can help fight for you is to be as calm as you can. I know that it's crappy. It sounds ridiculous saying something like that to someone who's got someone's, foot on their neck or their back or their side, or as I have seen in some videos, he literally flipped the man. So it's hard saying that, but I can say that when it comes down to fighting it, unfortunately, perception is reality in the law. And if I can't
listen, I want to push pause there because I want to show y'all something when they say perception is reality. Check this out.
Hey, don't do that, ma'am. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Please don't do that. Hey. You don't police people. You destroy your work. They don't care about you now. They don't care about us. They don't show you when they show that. They show off. So don't spray it. Check them. Just like that. Do not let them come into your peaceful protest and make it something that is not. That man could not breathe on the street. It's not about them. It is not about them. I am so devastated right now. I am so devastated right now. I am so devastated right now. This is not okay. For us to have to live like this, we do stupid this all the time, and we so black proud. We so black and proud that we ain't gonna never be honest and be real about what's really going on. Y'all are so wrong for this. You came in your neighborhood and f***ed up yours. I'm not a thief. I'm not coming in this store and stealing nothing. And ain't nobody gonna turn me into no animal and make me feel like a thief. Y'all let them white folks send y'all off once again. Look at this. Walking through filth. It's not okay. I'm walking through filth like I'm an animal. I feel like a sewer rat. None of this is cool. My mama can't get her medicine. What she gonna do without her medicine? What is she gonna do without her medicine? Our babies who need formula. Everything is gone. It's ridiculous. It's crazy. And meanwhile, you can't even go to Indiana. They won't even let you in. Meanwhile, they chilling in Hyde Park and up north. Them white folks came all the way from the north side to help us up our.
This right here?
Yeah, they put them
This the setup.
They put them there on purpose, bro. They gonna set them ones right up on the rail.
Y'all know what building this is right here. I ain't even gonna say what name it is.
Hey, where do the bricks go to?
This is setup. We gotta do better.
Ain't no
gotta do better.
Ain't no construction around here. Ain't no construction around here. You just gonna set a pallet of bricks right there.
Listen, I did jury duty 3 months ago. Y'all don't keep no bricks right there. Do better.
People who live in public housing, and you just made melee. You took down bus route. Now people who have to go out to work. And you are here profiting off of our pain. You think about what it's like to be a black woman in this neighborhood who lives with people in public housing, who now has to walk through, who bag your groceries, who drop off your food, who defends you, who go out to a hospital to serve your community. This is a protest? I gave my blood, sweat, and tears for this country. I served this country for 10 years. So when you think about anger and rage, because there's a way to get answer. Every single last one of you better be registered to vote. How you decide to organize and protest. But you don't riot. You don't burn my neighborhood. I am a resident here. And you will realize this resident doesn't look like any of you. Because she is black. She has a right to be there. But when you come in here with your we don't have patrons here. So you want to do something? Make sure you're registered to vote. So fire, and you better pass it on to all your friends. You stay out of our neighborhood and take this to the corporation. Take it to Washington. But you don't come on this block. Period.
Listen, when you said perception is reality, I wanted to just show how the narrative is being painted. Just like they say some neighborhoods are exotic, but the black community is dangerous. No, that's a picture y'all done painted. Y'all done perpetuated. First of all, you have made up and then you perpetuated stereotypes about our community to the point our men can't even walk out and be safe. Our sisters are being hung, raped, and murdered. I mean, when they started protesting here in Jacksonville, Gabe, I'm telling you, The first thing I say is they bet not come on my street. I'm telling you right now. Keep all that down there. Don't come down my street.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand it. And then you see it's the anarchists.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And a lot of times it's not even the peaceful protesters. It's a lot of people trying to profit off of the protest and the movement itself, making it look worse so that they can kill the narrative of fixing the problem.
Listen, I want to, when we talk about fixing the problem, y'all heard there's a Facebook thing running around about the little white girl talking to her racist parents about how she's trying to explain to them, you're not looking at it correctly. Perhaps you need your opinion of an entire community is skewed. So, first of all, let's pay attention to this. I want to run.
Just give me the statistic.
In 2017, 457 white people were shot to death by the police in the United States.
Okay.
223 were black.
76% of the population is white. 13% is black. If they were being killed at the exact same rate by police officers, the rate of black people being killed would be 8.9. But it's not. It's 24%. The rate of white people being killed should be about where it is. So they're being killed at a higher rate. There's more white people, meaning that the amount of people killed by cops who are white would be higher.
Now, I know we learn how to do ratios in school. I'm not understanding why this is so difficult. There are fewer of us than them. Why don't people understand how this is affecting our community? Listen, I call a black man a unicorn.
We call black jurors unicorns. I think because people like the first thing they say when you are when you hear people talk about the narrative was, what about black on black crime? That irks me. That as a criminal defense attorney, that's the thing that really gets on my last. It just crawls under my whole skin. And that's because the crime on each race is proportionate to the fact that everyone lives within their own race. That's majority of the time.
Right.
I recently had to do a week. We're constantly in our graduate studies, and I had to go through another class. And one of the biggest things that the speaker talked to us about is the population as far as living situation, housing, and schooling has not changed at all since the signing of the integration bills for housing, where people live together, where people go to school, where black people go to school versus where white people go to school. The map, you can literally lay it on top of the other map and it will be the same.
You talking about in the black community?
In any community. No one's moved.
But they still closing black schools every day. And my question is, when you closing them, where you sending them? And why would you combine a school that has a passing grade with a school that has a failing grade? What kind of idiots? What is going on? I believe the spirit of delusion is prevalent in our land. I am not understanding this. Either you got to be stupid, dumb, retarded, or slow not to get it. And I hate to sound so angry, but I'm frustrated because people don't seem to get it. I want to move to the next subject. Our children. Because at the culmination of us being frustrated and us trying to get together, our boys and our girls, we got to get this together because they are in danger. Look at the recidivism rate with our young people. And once you're in that system, you already know it's hard for them to get out that system. What are we going to do about our boys, about our little black girls? What recommendation would y'all have? Let me start down here with Alfred, because he has said little to nothing this whole broadcast. And I'm almost scared for him to start talking But I just speak your heart right now.
I wish I had an answer for you. I really don't. I think a lot of us, if not all of us, is at a loss with what solution will work. Because look what we tried up until this point. And how do we prevent from sounding like we're crying wolf? It's like, what can we do to have people take us seriously? And it's so hard to get them to take us seriously because they're just going through their thing again. They're a crying wolf. So I honestly, as much as I think we really need to come together as a people to do it, I don't think it is going to take us alone to do it. We need advocates. And so people can be taken seriously. Literally a coworker of mine, I've seen him go to war with his family on Facebook. He's a white guy that literally is going to war on Facebook with his family because he's trying to get them to understand our plight. And I'm like, as much as I would love for us to be able to be that convincing factor, it's going to take people like him.
Yeah.
Because I look like you. I have access to the same privilege as you, but I need you to see things from this perspective.
Mm-hmm.
Because until then, to me, it's just we're just crying wolf. They'll never take us seriously if it's just us trying to get them to understand our plight. And for those who even have an understanding or who want to help, a lot of times I feel even the good ones that mean well don't completely understand because they haven't gone through the experience.
True.
So all we can do is explain to them our experience, hope they have a listening ear, have empathy, have understanding, and then spread that message amongst their people as well. And saying, I sat down, I had a conversation with so-and-so. I didn't understand this before, I understand this now. Now, can you listen to me and have this understanding? Because until then, all the things like all lives matter, black on black crime, all of those are stances of defense. Mm-hmm. And if you come to the conversation in the stance of defense, you're not going to hear me at all. There's no solution that's going to happen. There's nothing that's going to take place because you're already in a position of defense.
It's always...
Here's my rebut for black on black crime.
Mm-hmm.
Well, our community don't kill people for insurance money.
Mm-hmm. Lord Jesus.
But we got to understand why it is that way. I mean, we look at things like the projects, which were something that was created during World War II. I mean, and we big up that, we hype that to the utmost, but we don't understand that Adolf Hitler created that for the Jews and the blacks in Germany at the time of World War II. So what it was invented in a lab where they put the rat in the thing, and then they gave one rat some cheese and they gave the other rat no cheese, and the rat who had the cheese got killed by the rat who didn't have cheese, because guess what, now I need to survive and you have what I need to survive, I don't have it, so now it's either I die or you die, and we're in the same predicament. We've been strategically placed in places to where we have no means of success. We have no means of coming out of it. So now what we do is we have the projects and we're there, and it's now we're in the concrete jungle, as you would say. Now it's kill or be killed, survival of the fittest. You have money, I don't have money. You have this means of getting money, I don't have this means of getting money. So now I'm gonna kill you. It perpetuates. It's an everlasting cycle. It's something that they've done, that they put in place, that has happened over 400 years. And one thing that I have said is that we have to understand that we're not even 300 years removed from the abolishment of slavery. So for you to think that the majority of your Caucasian brothers and sisters have changed the way that they think about you, you are blind and you are not really realizing what's really going on in historic matters of the meaning of everything behind it.
Right. I had to stop your thought because what I wanted to do at this time is thank Mr. Rozier for your time. I know you have to head out, but I just wanted to thank you publicly for, again, taking the time to take with us here tonight.
Thank you, and appreciate the opportunity, and really enjoyed being able to hear the perspectives of the other panelists. Thank you all.
Thank you. Have a great night.
Thank you.
This is wild. I want to show y'all one more clip. And this is really the men, because I say it all the time, a woman can make a boy a gentleman, but it takes a man to make a boy a man. I want y'all to watch this clip.
But let me tell you something right here. This 16, he's 16. They gonna kill him, but he's 16. What we gonna do? You tell me. What we gonna do? This ain't the way. Because they ready to let loose. It's the United States presidency. If you loot, we shoot. You know we shoot. I know it. So it's but it's time to stand up. So at this point, I'm ready to die. But what's going on? Let me tell you something. That's the problem that we got. What you see right now is gonna happen 10 years from now. And at 26, you're gonna be doing the same thing I'm doing. You understand that? 10 years. You're gonna be right here too. But he also got to. So what I need y'all to do right now at 16 is come up with a better way. Cause how we doing it, it ain't working. He angry at 46. I'm angry at 31. You angry at 16. It's old, you understand me? It's putting yourself in harm's way is not the way. No, it's not. You and the other your counterparts the same age and that has that same power. Y'all come up with a better way. Cause we ain't doing it. Oh my God. And I have a 5-year-old son. Oh my God. And it ain't happening. I marched 4 years ago. Keep Lamont Scott did the same shit y'all doing. The same exact thing night after night after night. It don't matter. Come up with a better way.
Our young generation is clearly lost, man. Clearly lost, man. Like, I don't even know what to say no more, man. Like, you youngsters just going around, just busting guns in crowds, kids getting killed, and it's clearly the generation after us, man. That's so lost, man. Hey, man. Come on home, man. One day it's gonna be you and God. You're going up and you're going down.
And he was right. We've seen these marches before. We've seen, I think Fred Price said it, if I'm getting this right, I think Pastor Fred Price asked the question at George Floyd funeral. He said, what's different about this time? What is, because like you were saying, Mr. Hodge, they, Mr. Smith, we angry for a little while and then it subsides, it goes away, and then we back to business as normal. But I think it's the young people. I think the key is the young people. I don't know. What y'all think?
It's always been the young people. And the key difference now in what we are experiencing versus what was different from the last time is you didn't have millions of people sitting at home scared to go outside because of a virus, and all they're doing is watching their social media all day. So anything that we had heightened at 100% is now at 1,000,000% because all we can do now is sit and watch. So we're watching Ahmaud get killed. We're watching someone have a knee on George Floyd's neck. So everybody is seeing it. So now everybody's come out in droves because we're angry and we can see this. You know what I mean? So those people that were at work that wasn't able to look, and those people that were taking care of their kids or their family that were not really into it. Now everybody has that's looking at that platform and they're seeing on a broad spectrum the plight of our people. And one thing that I've said for years and years is the greatest horror story never placed on film is the plight of the African man and woman. The greatest horror story. And they'll never put it on film. They'll never be able to acknowledge our plight or understand our plight, because you have to understand your oppressor cannot understand the oppression that he's putting on you. He knows what he's doing, but he doesn't feel what it's doing to you because of the fact that he's the one that's inflicting the pain upon you.
And he don't think nothing wrong with it.
No, it's been that way for years. You gotta understand that you have to understand that back before they went and got us, they said that the Archbishop said that the African had no soul. So it was okay to go steal him off of the continent and bring him over here to this land and treat him as not even 3/5 of a human, because we just not got that. We were treated lower than an animal because they said we didn't have a soul.
And is
So
Attorney Williams, is it still true that in large parts of the Constitution, African Americans are still not considered human beings?
Well, technically, a way amendments work is that if the amendment doesn't change the specified language, then that language remains. So the 13th Amendment.
Hold on, you're not just gonna say that and try to move past it. Did y'all just hear what she said?
Mm-hmm.
This is why we have got to vote. We have got to vote. Let me tell you something. We all showed up to the polls. You want to scare them real good. Show up to them polls and see what happens.
Yes, I often tell people that there are three portions of government: the executive, the judicial, and the legislative is you. It is not the person who sits in that chair. Their time is limited, termed, and typed out by the people. And if the people would recognize their power, they would get that. I often say that politics, and our forefathers were very smart in their politics because they made us think that politics was difficult. Therefore, taking out millions and hundreds of people when it's really as easy as 1 + 1 = 2. They don't want you to think about it because they don't want you to recognize your power in order to overturn some of these laws. As the prophet mentioned before, the 13th Amendment does say all people are free, but then there's this beautiful semicolon. And if anybody knows how writing works, it's a lawyer. And the semicolon means but. And that but means unless we incarcerate you. And we know that over 50% to 60% of the incarceration rate are Black males. And so when you answer that question, that's why I said technically, I mean, it's right there in the 13th Amendment. It says you're free, semicolon. But not too much.
But not too much.
Unless we incarcerate you and we locked up by throws, and they do that the school to prison pipeline, and they don't give us adequate equipment, adequate books, adequate learning tools in order for us to go out and be equal to our counterparts in society. And even in the fact of, if you look at, there's a book that's called Brainwashed, that when we did integrate with our white counterparts, what ended up happening is you had the white woman teacher that actually was putting us to the point where we need to look up to them, that we were lower than them, we weren't equal to them. It was always, even though we fought for these equal rights, it was always placed in our heads subliminally that we were not the greater, but we are. Going back to what the prophet said, we're the original human. We're the exact expression of the Creator. And in order for you to keep us oppressed, you have to keep us down and make us feel as if our deity does not look at us like us. But everywhere else, their deity looks just like them. They worship somebody that looks just like them. So it's like it's always a way to keep us oppressed and suppressed, and to keep us from coming together and being a great people. As I stated to you before, Geneva, another way.
Can you please stop calling my government name on this show?
Okay, well, guess what? What you want me to call you now?
You gonna call it G.
Don't call me at all.
G. So let's say this. Even in that, as she stated, what's our way to fight is going to the polls, and there's also a way to fight, which is capital. If we were a nation of people, we would be the 10th richest nation of people on the planet. So it's a way to divide us, because if we come together, that's gonna hit them dead in their mouth. Just like a Chinese would say, if this was happening to them, if another Chinese American dies on American soil, we're not gonna give you another dime. American economy was shut down. If we were to say, if another Black man dies at the hand of someone unarmed. For no reason, we won't spend another dime. We won't go to your Dillard's. We won't go to your Starbucks. And these are places that are stating that their own people that work for them can't even support Black Lives Matter. So we're patronizing them and pumping everything back into the economy, and we don't even have stuff for ourselves that we own and we can operate and we can say we're going to shut this down and we're not going to do this or that.
We have to be intentional about supporting our businesses. We have to be very intentional and purposeful about taking those dollars and shifting them and putting them into businesses. I look for Black businesses. I didn't just start doing that either. This has been a part of what we do. And we've made a commitment to doing that. But now we said we have to up the ante even more. So, you know, and we have to be, I would say that even in that the same measure of grace that we would give to a non-Black business for poor customer service and for other things is the same measure of grace that we need to give to Black businesses as well. You know, because we're all in the process of growing here. We're all in the process of doing better and being better. But money will talk above anything else. If you don't listen to me, you'll listen to my green money.
That's right. And that's how I'm protesting, because I ain't getting on nobody picket line. First of all, I'm too big for that. It's too hot outside.
It sure is hot.
I have to seek out other forms to protest, so my money can go a whole lot further than I can walk, baby.
Mm-hmm.
So I can show you better.
It's amazing you said that. There's a book called My Black Year. And it's about a Black family who wrote about patronizing only Black businesses for a year. I loved that book.
Me too.
And I think part of what you're saying is the mentality also has to change. I have more stress from Black people thinking I am incapable of doing my job than I get from a lot of my white clients. Because we have been socially built, conditioned that somehow Black intelligence is lesser. The color of my skin is somehow seeped into my brain, permeated my intelligence, and just taken it. And that's not the case. I think that society has helped us, and we played into it because too many Black people. I don't want a Black doctor. Ugh, I don't want a Black this. And I'm like, why not? That is how you change the narrative. You invest in your own. There are too many cultures that do it. We're one of the few cultures that I say is just too open, too giving.
Right. You're right.
Don't look for me, honey. Y'all keep on talking because this conversation is good. What I'd like to do is I'm going to extend the invitation in our comments section for anybody who would like to comment or ask a question. I am providing the link on our comment board right after I figure out how to do it. I did it wrong. But this is a good conversation. The power of the Black dollar. Lee, can you really help the people understand the power of the Black dollar?
Well, in reading My Black Year and attended a conference that the author, I think her name is Maggie Anderson, that she had, when she talked about it and she explained about how the Black dollar, how long the Black dollar circulates in the Black community before it leaves. And, you know, I did some of my own digging, and of course, there are a lot of different people that will say, well, that hasn't been substantiated or validated, but I still think that there's a point to it. In comparison to other cultures and things like that, they say that, you know, like in the white communities, the dollar will stay, you know, somewhere 21 plus days. In Asian communities, it's like 19 days, 17 days. Jewish communities is somewhere upwards of that too. But in the Black community, they say that the dollar is in our communities for approximately 6 hours before it leaves. That's what the statistic is. Now, whether or not that statistic is valid, I'm not sure. But I think the point is that our money is leaving out of our community faster than we could put it in our community and keep it into our communities to be able to build our own schools, build our own grocery stores, build our own infrastructure that we need. So we have to be very mindful and very cognizant of that and be very aware of that, particularly when we're spending the money. Because I'm gonna tell you like this, I don't mind. I will go. I'm so serious about supporting our businesses. I will drive up to an hour and 45 minutes out the way, and I have done that. And I will bypass any other business that I can just to make sure that I will support a Black business of my own or someone else's Black business that I know. Why? Because it matters and it's important. And if we don't support us, and if we don't see the value in what we have and what we, what we produce, then how is anybody else going to see it? Charity begins at home and then spreads abroad. So we have to start seeing the value ourselves before we can expect anybody else to value us the way that we should. It starts with us.
Oh my goodness. Let's go to closing thoughts. Because I have to watch my energy with topics like this because it gets me just so riled up. But in the end of the day, when we really, as believers of Jesus Christ, we know that we fight not against flesh and blood. But what I do want to tell you is the devil also works in symbolism.
Oh, yeah.
And here's what I want you to understand about symbolism. If they knew who Jesus was before they crucified him and the power of his resurrection, they wouldn't have never killed him. So here's what I'm going to say to you about the Black community. Be careful how you treat God's people. Because if you knew the power of our blood as it goes back to the earth, hanging from trees like strange fruit, you wouldn't have never crucified us. The earth responds to that. The earth responds to it. Here's what I'm gonna tell you. Because they took the blood of the lamb, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they put it over the post, right?
Mm-hmm.
So wherever the blood is applied, there's what? There's safety, there's protection. This is why we went into our homes at the beginning of the pandemic. We sheltered in place as believers so that the death angel could pass over our homes. Be careful how you treat God's people. Be careful, be careful, be careful. I can really bring out some scripture on that, but I'm gonna let everybody have their closing commentary because we're gonna wrap this up, honey. We done been up here, honey. Go ahead, y'all.
I would add, or I would say, we need to re-engage our weapon of voting. It's just been an attack. I would say that's and a new narrative saying that our vote doesn't count, the elections are rigged, and I've been the one accepting this, even though I still voted. I'm like, I'm going to vote because I want to err on the side of caution. And then I had a thought come to mind that says, if the vote doesn't count, if it really didn't matter, why did they fight so hard to keep our right from doing it? So it does matter. I don't care what the machination is that's floating around saying that it don't count. I'm a write in a name. No, voting is a weapon for us.
Yes, it is.
It is a weapon. Do it, Black people. Do it.
Please.
Please.
Do it.
It shows us as a unified front. Like when you come together and you have a peaceful protest, and then you also come together and you join your Black vote with your Black dollar, that's going to show them that A, you can get organized, B, you have sense, and C, you're ready for what we would say a proverbial takeover, because of the fact that now we have the same agenda, we're on level playing field, there's no big I, no little you, and now we're ready to go forward and say, okay, this is what we need to do and this is where we need to go. And you're right, the vote matters. Our ancestors died for that, so I feel like it's a spit and a slap in the face when we do not go out in droves and vote, when the same thing happened to them that it happened to us now. They had their knee on their neck, but then they cracked their heads on the side of curbs for just even being wanting to say, I'm equal to you. that you're not better than me. So I say all the time, when we do not honor our ancestors, when we do not honor those who have paved the way and they came before us, we are of no good to our people, because they had to sacrifice their life and martyrdom for us to be where we are today. No them, no us.
And I would just pull from that and say that the voting rights matter, because if it didn't have an effect, there still wouldn't be problems with voting. I'm not sure if anyone is paying attention to that narrative right now, because we're so caught up in some of the other things that are happening. But right in big cities like Atlanta, they are having problems with voting. And by problems, I mean they are restricting Black votes. So it's coming off of certain things of incarceration rates. It's coming off in the state of Florida. You cannot vote if you have a felony or convicted of felonies. They tried to overturn that, and the governor tacked on the back of it, oh, we'll give you your rights back, but you got to pay all your monies off, knowing that most of the people are indigent and can't pay that money back. The Black vote is still being attacked. They're asking for registration cards, pictures, IDs, things they should not be asking for in many states right now. And it's all because they do recognize that the voting right is powerful. So if anything I can say tonight from the legal measures, do as much as you can to get out there and make your voice heard.
Listen, and not only are they doing all of that, but they are also waiting till you get in line to close the precinct. Say what the word is, precinct. Yeah. They will close the precinct, and you know where they closing them at? In the
neighborhoods.
Y'all ain't got no cars, and ain't got transportation to get to the polls. So those people that can get to the polls are standing in extremely long lines, and then they cutting hours to the polling center. Listen, let me tell y'all something. They playing dirty. They playing dirty, and I don't like to lose. And I'm sure as none of you do. So I need you, if you are 18 and you have the right to vote, I'm going to need you to get registered right now. I also want you to mark your calendar for August the 28th. I'm going to say that again. August the 28th. Okay, the National Action Network is going to march on Washington. If you can get your coins together to get you some gas money or get you one of them cheap little flights, I don't know how many of us trying to get on the flight. But anyway, whatever, if you can get there, if you are in the state of Washington, get to the March on Washington. It's going to be the anniversary of Martin Luther King's. Lord, I'm tired. I can't hardly talk no more. Whoo, Jesus. But listen, August the 28th, before we close, Alvin, can you stand up and show everybody your shirt? Listen, this Black man has a new clothing line. This is the Never Forget clothing line. I want you to go on Facebook. You can go on Instagram, put your orders in. He has a variety of shirts, variety of designs, a variety of colors. We will never forget. We're going to move forward and we're going to grow from what we're learning. And you know what? On top of that, we're going to train our young people how to have a better world. In Jesus' name, let the church say,
Amen.
Listen, it has been our pleasure to be here with you guys tonight. I am so delighted that you took time out to join us. I want you to, again, just go back, replay the information, be fed from it, be edified. Acknowledge the pain of your friends, of your loved ones. My Caucasian brothers and sisters, acknowledge it. Sit down with one another. And get an understanding of where they're coming from. And then at the end of this, I want you to go before the Lord in prayer and ask the Lord how you ought to address it. Now, it's common sense to me, but maybe you ought to go pray about it. We love you. We love you. We love you. May God richly bless you. Have a good night. The views and opinions.
I'm a young Black man doing all that I can to stand. All the way I look around and I see what's being done to my